A huge aftershock in Chile has hampered rescue workers, still searching for people killed and injured by the massive earthquake that struck on Saturday. The number of dead has now been put at more than 700. It's thought that 500,000 homes were destroyed, most around the city of Concepcion, where the army has now been brought in to stop looting. Along the coast, many villages were shattered by the powerful waves that followed the quake. The BBC's Claire Marshall reports now from Chile.
From the air, the power of the earthquake and the tsunami it unleashed can be seen. Towns and villages down Chile's long coastline were broken by the tremors and then washed away by the waves. In central Chile, near the epicenter of the quake, few buildings still stand. Even for a nation used to earthquakes, this is too much to bear.
Que nos vengan a buscar, por favor. Que mi papá, que está en Talca.
We need help to look for our father, says this girl. Father, we love you very much, says her sister. It's been 3 days since the earthquake struck, but only now are rescue workers getting to the more remote areas. They're working as fast as they can to save anyone who may still be buried. This is Concepcion, Chile's second city, now in ruins, with residents too frightened of aftershocks to go to sleep in their own beds, lighting fires for warmth and for comfort.
There's no electricity, no water, and there's no food at all because everything has been looted, so we have nothing.
Sí, claramente.
Dozens of looters in the capital, Santiago, have been rounded up. Curfews have been put in place in certain parts of the country. By this morning, those cars caught by the quake had been picked clean. The traffic finds a way through the fractured highways any way it can. The familiar routes have changed beyond all recognition. Now this is the main ring road which surrounds the Chilean capital, Santiago. The epicenter of the quake was several hundred miles away from here. Just look at the force that must have been generated to do all this damage. Today, new pictures emerged of the exact moment that the quake struck. You can hear one man telling other panicked residents to calm down. Tonight, in the areas worst affected, food, fuel and water are still scarce. Looters take what they can and share it out with others. The president has called this an emergency without parallel in Chile's history.
And Claire joins us now from Santiago with more on the country's efforts to recover from this enormous quake. Claire, you're some 5 hours, I understand, from the centre, the epicenter of where the quake hit. And behind you, I saw the pictures earlier, it looks as if things are pretty normal.
Yes, we're in the capital and there are areas here of really serious damage. You saw there in my report the road that we went to. That's the kind of the ring road around the main capital, completely destroyed. And the cars there we saw were as if they'd been completely crushed. There are other parts of the city as well which have been ruined. But what's really struck us here today, we've been here all day, arrived on a long journey over the Andes, through the night last night. A lot of people coming up to the BBC team here asking for information about their relatives in the south, near the town of the city of Concepcion that we've been talking about. A lot of people really wanting to find out what's going on there. Communication is still very, very bad. There's no water, there's no electricity. Things down there are really difficult.
We saw the pictures of looting in your report there, Claire, as well. How widespread do you understand that is?
Well, we understand there are about 7,000 troops have been deployed in order to try to control it, and also the troops are being used to try and give out supplies and that kind of thing. So it is a serious problem. There's about 50 people were arrested because they broke a curfew that was put in place in several different parts of the country. They have been arrested, but the looting still goes on. People down in the hardest hit areas are just becoming fed up at the pace of the rescue operation, really. There are people still without food and water. They're just getting frustrated. They just want the basics, really. So looting is still clearly a problem.
Claire, you know, of course, Haiti very well. You've travelled there several times. Looking at, the size of the earthquake in Chile, I guess many people might think that actually the situation is not as bad as it could have been compared to what happened in Haiti? Is it as simple as to say that Chile is just simply a richer country with better infrastructure, stronger buildings?
I think you're right. I think you're right partly in that, and also, I mean, the earthquake was much, much more powerful here in Chile, but actually in the Haiti earthquake it was a lot closer to the surface, so that's one element there. But the nature of the buildings is just completely different. I mean, Santiago, where we are now, is a very, very modern, almost kind of European-looking city. It's a completely different question. Haiti, the slums there, just made out of pieces of corrugated iron kind of leaning together on hillsides. They didn't really stand a chance of standing up against even a small earthquake. But here you're looking at something very, very different. Chile, a country very used to earthquakes, sits on a major, major fault line. So architects have been looking at this problem for years, clearly done a good job in sorting it out. But I have to say, there are many parts of the country, the Red Cross are calling them hidden areas, which no one has actually got to yet. So there are certain parts of the country where we still don't know what's happened, and it could be that the number of dead may go on to rise if the buildings haven't withstood this enormous quake that we've had here.
Okay, Claire Marshall there in the capital, Santiago. Thanks so much for joining us, Claire. Well, for more on the logistics that Claire was talking about, of getting help to people who are becoming more desperate as every hour goes past, I spoke a short time ago with Patricio Dam. He is Chile's Consul General, from our studios at the UN in New York. Consul General, thank you very much for joining us. Of course, in earthquakes, time is very critical, particularly those first 2 or 3 days. Why did the Chilean government wait so long before asking for international assistance?
Well, the reason is that the government wanted to assess the damage and assess the needs, and afterwards record to the international community, and that has been done today through our mission in Geneva to the United Nations. So that's one step through the United Nations systems, and the other way is through bilateral help.
But isn't there a risk that people who might have been saved weren't saved because you didn't get international search and rescue teams in early enough, or not?
No, absolutely not. As what I understand, all the casualties happened or during the earthquake or just minutes after the earthquake, mainly 15 minutes after, because of the tsunami that came after the earthquake in the coastal areas near where the epicenter was. We
are getting reports, Mr. Dam, of a supermarket being looted and burned down in the middle of Concepcion. We've seen arrests, I think something like 160 people arrested in the city for looting. One of our BBC correspondents reporting from Chile is suggesting that the government is simply overwhelmed. Is that true?
Absolutely not. I think the institutions in Chile are tackling the problem. It's not easy, but has deployed all the means that it has. And now I understand the government declared zone of catastrophe, which means that some constitutional rights are curtailed, and the military are taking care of the security and the order in that place. But that's a very isolated event.
But would it, in retrospect, have been better to get the army into Concepcion faster? I know that the mayor of the city has said that he's glad that the army is coming in, that they can restore order. Could you have avoided the current violence?
I don't think so. As one journalist, a Chilean journalist says, at these times Chileans show their worst side and their best side. And this isolated event, I think, shows one of our worst sides, yes.
Mr. Consul General, there are, of course, areas of the country which have still not been reached by either the army or by the rescue workers. Do you have any idea how many more people need assistance outside the cities? How many more people may have been affected? Do we know yet?
No. At this time, I think I really don't know the last minute information, but up to now, what I understand that the government has reached everywhere. There are no places where have been abandoned.
So as far as you know, all of the communities that need assistance now have assistance?
It's starting to reach them, and the government, together with the private sector, They have installed a distribution center in order for all the families in need to receive at least the basic elements as food and water.
Patricio Dunn, thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, thanks very much.
Rescue workers in small boats are searching for people trapped in their homes along Europe's Atlantic coast after the worst storm in years battered the continent. The French president asked how, in France in the 21st century, families can be surprised in their sleep and drown in their homes. More than 60 people were killed and 1 million homes left without power across Western Europe. Emma-Jane Kirby reports now from L'Aiguillon-sur-Mer, where 8-metre waves crashed through the streets.
A series of strong aftershocks of magnitude 5.5 and higher have struck areas devastated by the earthquake in Chile. The tremors were felt in several cities, including the capital Santiago. They did prompt new tsunami warnings, although those were later lifted. The aftershocks came as the authorities were working to speed up distribution of aid to the worst-hit areas. The BBC's Steve Kingston, he's in the capital.
These are still nervous moments in Chile. Here, in the nation's second city, Concepcion, there's been an aftershock. A local reporter explains that tsunami sirens have been sounded. It's chaos, he says. All the vehicles are getting out. But the army commander appeals for calm. We need to confirm this, he cautions. And moments later, it's clear there was never an official tsunami warning. But for some, even a false alarm is too much. With each day that passes, the scale of what happened here is clearer. The 7th most powerful earthquake on record triggered waves which all but wiped out dozens of coastal communities. The sea claimed the most lives, in towns where more often than not there was no tsunami warning. It's emerged that the Chilean Navy told the government there might be a tsunami 21 minutes after the quake, but communication was so poor that more than an hour later, President Michelle Bachelet was still seeking clarification from officials. The military is shouldering the blame.
We weren't very clear on this. We weren't sufficiently precise with the information we gave the President as to whether to maintain or cancel the tsunami warning.
Those errors have increased the pressure on a government already feeling the strain of the relief effort. But supplies are now getting through, and help is on its way from Cuba, America, Russia and the European Union. In Concepcion, the scene of looting 2 days ago, the army has restored a steely air of calm. But Chile's recovery is only just beginning. Steve Kingston, BBC News, Santiago.
A strong aftershock ignited panic today in Chile, 4 days after the major earthquake which flattened buildings and produced a deadly tsunami. The coastal towns which bore the brunt of the destruction are still on constant edge, and loudspeakers were used to reassure residents after today's tremor. The BBC's Claire Marshall is in Concepcion, one of the cities hardest hit by Saturday's quake, and she filed this report.